been so inspiring to me. I'm just so jazzed to come here every year. Always going home, just energized and so excited about chiropractic. And I just want to get my hands on people already.
They did good last year, but they surpassed themselves this year. You have got to come.
I love the wave. It's been a great seminar, meeting up with old friends and catching up and learning a lot and being re-inspired.
Well, welcome everybody to our second birthday week podcast for Life Chiropractic College West. I'm Dr. Ron Oberstein, and I'm excited. We're having a great week so far here at the college. It's just going to keep going every day. Tonight, I have two wonderful people that I actually I call friends for many, many, many years. And I'm going to introduce them in a second. I just want to lay down some ground rules for everybody who's on with us tonight. We are going to be doing a question and answer. Last night, we couldn't even get to all the questions, but so we'll start our questions earlier. So please submit them early so we can make sure we can get through them all. Three ways that you can do your questions. I'm going to read these off to you. The first is you have a chat box. Just put it in the chat box. Shane Pilgrim, our director, producer, videographer extraordinaire, and now webcaster, will be able to take those and he will ask those questions. Or you can raise your hand, and there's a box on the bottom that you can just click on, raise your hand up, the virtual hand, and then Shane can call on you. You can actually speak your question. If you are going to speak your question, please keep it brief so that other people can ask questions also. Or lastly, you can email questions to President's Office at lifewest.edu if you're nowhere able to do those other two, and we'll get those questions over to Shane. So our two guests that are with us, first of all, we have Dr. Michael Schmidt. And for those of you that were at the college from 1981 to 2002, I know you had to at least run into him, either in the hallways, were sent to his office, or whatever, had him as an instructor. I'll just kind of give you a rundown on Dr. Michael. 1975 Palmer graduate. He practiced in Georgia from 75 to 81, at which time he regrouped, left Georgia, came over to the Bay Area and started working at the college. He was an instructor when he first got here. He then became the clinic director for 5 years, went on to become the technique department chair, and then his last 10 years, he was dean of the college. And he did an amazing amount of work at the college while he was there for his 21, 22 years, going through accreditation, which we'll hear about tonight. And then the next guest I have is Adrienne Miller. And those of you that were at the college or between 1994 and 2006 got to know Adrienne. Just to give you an idea about Adrienne, she went to Berkeley and she graduated in 74. She went on to Hastings College in San Francisco, just went across the bridge and got her law degree, while she also did a master's course at Berkeley in rhetoric, which is probably really important in chiropractic, because I think we got more rhetoric in chiropractic you could ever imagine. But she came to the college in 94, and she actually came as the dean of instruction. And then Michael, I know that she stepped into your job as dean of the college when you left. And they just have so much history in the college. Michael, of course, from 81 to 2002, and then Adrienne from 94 to 2006. So, they were there for the transition from when we moved from San Leandro to the new school, which is the current campus that we've been in now for, 21 years. And they've just got some really great stories. So as those questions start to come in, we're going to start just kind of discussing some things. And thank you both for being with us tonight. It's great to see you guys. Here we go. Let's just start off with the easy ones. Like, how did you get to Life West? I think that's a great question for people to know. So, Michael, why don't you start it off and just share how you got to Life West?
Basically, when the college came, I wanted to move to California.
So it's convenient.
That was the main reason. Then, of course, I had an in because the job interview wasn't too hard because I knew the president.
Tell our viewers. Most people are going to know this anyways, but how did you know the president?
He's married to my sister. Actually, I introduced them. I picked him out when I was a student and introduced him to my sister.
Little did you know that you'd be interviewing with him for your second job, huh?
Yeah.
That's great. Adrienne, how about you? How'd you get to the college?
Well, I was at Berkeley, and in the old days when you could look at one ads in the San Francisco Chronicle, there was a want ad for someone to come to Life Chiropractic College West, and I knew a little bit about chiropractic, but I could do all the different things listed in the job, and it was a hodgepodge. So I thought, I'm going to apply, and I came for the interview, and I was interviewed by all these wonderful people, and I prepared for all the standard interview questions because that's what a rhetoric person would do. They didn't ask me any of them. And then someone said something about, well, how will we know we found the right person? And Jerry Klum said, we'll have to trust innate. And I looked and thought, who are these people? They're really wonderful. They're not asking strengths and weaknesses and, you know, what are your goals in 5 years? They just said, we trust innate. And I thought, I want to work with these folks. So I was lucky enough to get the job here.
I
And I
love
learned
it.
about chiropractic as I went. Mhm.
I love it. Michael, little did she know, they probably slipped a piece of paper in front and said, okay, are you ready for the job? Press hard. There's 3 copies. Sign here, right? And, and then when she left, they went, got another one. Michael, you were there from the early days, obviously, right? And you watched.
In the very beginning when it switched from Pacific States.
Yeah, you watched the college grow, right? I mean,
Yes, totally.
What was it like in those early days? As an instructor, when you came in.
In the very early days, everybody did everything. We did the janitorial work when the kids left. I spent the first month before the school opened, the month of June, I guess, because we came back right after summer break, which would be the beginning of July, painting. We painted all the halls, all the classrooms, the old building, and then organized, and we just did everything, and the students helped us. The students did a lot of work, and it just grew from there.
Yeah. And Adrienne, there was an old saying, there was a saying at the old school, and it's still true here too, and the saying at the old school was, it's not what's on the walls, it's what's in the halls.
Yes.
Right? Right? And you had to experience that being a non-chiropractor, right?
Oh, when I walked in that building, now you have to understand, I'm coming from UC Berkeley to Via Barrett, and people thought I was crazy. But I said, I actually brought someone around to show him the building, and I said, isn't it wonderful? And he looked at me like I'd gone crazy, and I said, don't you feel the feeling? Don't you feel it? And he didn't, and I said, well, you're not meant to be here, but I am. I said, that's it, I'm here. So that's what happened.
Adrienne, truthfully, did your friends because Michael and I, we come from chiropractic, so we just know crazy is what's normal for us, right? Kind of deal, right? Did your friends outside of chiropractic think what Kool-Aid did you drink? Was it?
Oh yeah. They did, but they said they'd support me no matter what. And I said, I am so happy that, and they saw that right away too. I was delighted. I got hired because you had a surge in enrollment because of all the students who were transferring in.
Yeah.
So you needed somebody to pick up a little of this and a little of that and kind of fill in those gaps because it quickly grew,
I love it. We've got more on my plate to talk about, but there's some questions that came in. So Shane, I'm gonna turn the mic over to you to allow you to ask these questions, if you would, please.
Sure. The first one comes from Wanda Butterly, and I'm not sure which panelist this is directed to, but do you remember Project Razzle Dazzle?
Razzle Dazzle. Give me a hint.
This is coming from an attendee who unfortunately cannot speak. All she wrote was
I know Wanda.
Razzle Dazzle.
Razzle Dazzle. Does that make sense? We'll come back to that. And Wanda, if you could give a hint on that, just type it to Shane or put it in there, and Shane will go to another question if you have any.
Absolutely. This one comes from Dr. Cheryl Saxton. Adrienne, so good to see you. How are those contacts?
Oh, this is a great story about why I love chiropractic. Cheryl Saxton was my intern, and I had gotten up that morning, and in those days I wore contacts, and I put them in the wrong eyes. And I came into work and contacted my intern, and I said, Cheryl, I'm having a stroke. My vision is so terrible. What's happening to me? And I was convinced I was dying. And she said, switch your contacts. So as far as that's another way chiropractic saved me. And I'm wearing glasses now, Cheryl. So I'm almost set.
I love it. I love it. Welcome, Cheryl. Cheryl, thanks for that question. Shane, any more before I go on?
Yeah, so we actually have a hand raised by Dr. David Shiner. Dr. David Shiner, I'm going to unmute you right now.
Thanks so much. Hey, this question, I just want to first thank Dr. Schmidt and Adrienne for everything that you did during your years at Life West. For Dr. Schmidt, my question is, what are the top 2 to 3 things that you observed and or experienced during your tenure at Life West that played a large role in the college growing from 140 to just shy of 900 students during Dr. Klum's tenure? How did you see that happen? What are the key things that had the college grow?
Well, there were several factors. One was I can't place your face, which means you were a good student.
Well, I went to Life in Atlanta, but anyway.
I saw everybody if they excelled or if they underproduced. They came to see me.
Okay.
But what had happened was we had a spirit here that people liked and gravitated toward. And it was truly a spirit of service. And we got a huge number of transfers. But at the same time, what was going on in the big picture of chiropractic, there were probably 3 or 4 other schools that had opened up, and they were not able to get accredited. So their students had to transfer somewhere else. And we took a lot of them. You know, there was a Pennsylvania school. There was another school in there were 2 schools in LA area. And I can't remember them all.
Did Pasadena?
Pasadena went under, and then there was another one down there also.
I just remember
Southern California or something it was called.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting, Michael, because you brought that up, and it's like, you know, like what we talked about, right? It's not what's on the walls, it's what's in the halls. That spirit, that's that energy that's there, right? The positive vibe and the just the students loving what they're learning, right? Maybe not necessarily always while they're going through it, right? In the tests and stuff, but they loved the principle of chiropractic, and that's what they were getting at Life West, right?
The other thing, part of everybody's job description, Ron will certainly remember this, is in the evenings and weekends, we recruited. I spent many times at Ron's office where we would have career nights and get 10 or 12, 4, whatever came. And that helped a lot. The one-to-one, and we would just meet people.
Yeah. And you know, in those days, I would say that, and I'd love to see the statistics on this. I don't think we have them, but you know, the majority of our students were coming either from students or chiropractors. You know, it wasn't like we were at every college and people knew. It wasn't fashionable to be a chiropractor back in the 80s, so to speak, you know? So you either had to have an experience or someone told you about it or your chiropractor said you need to come to the student evening. Because Michael, I remember you coming all the time, you know, and you and Jerry, and we'd have 50 people in the reception room sometimes of Mary and I at my office, right? And these were, but it wasn't from me, it was from all the chiropractors in San Diego who just knew that there was a, you know, that there was an open house, a student open house, right? They were fun. Adrienne, I have a question for you. You know, you came into the chiropractic world from, you know, obviously you were very educated. You know, you went to Berkeley, went to law school, did a master's, and did at the same time your law school and master's. You know, what did you think about, like, you know, the chiropractic, you know, education, you know, and what was there, like the rigor that was there? Because obviously it was a tough program, right? You know, and you were surrounded by people like Dr. Schmidt and, you know, Michael and Jerry Klum and people like that.
Oh, yeah, I was very impressed with the quality of the faculty, but also, I mean, part of the reason I was hired was to do some teacher coaching, to coach the instructors. And so I get to sit in on all the classes and watch people teach. So it was interesting to see all the styles. But one of the things, again, everything looked a little weird to me. But I looked at it, and then I realized it was this big insight I had, was that this is because chiropractic is using the philosophy of Ralph Waldo Emerson. And that was weird, but I had taught Emerson, and so many of the things chiropractors did fit into that American approach to things. And in fact, you know, BJ quoted Emerson quite a lot. So it was a really interesting way for me to see how a philosophy got translated into a life. And that's what I was seeing here. So that's
and
it.
Adrienne published a paper on that.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
What was it, Adrienne? What was the paper?
It was something like Emerson and chiropractic. I don't remember. It got published in the magazine from Today's Chiropractic from Georgia. Anyway, it was just so interesting to see.
Well, I have to tell you, Michael, I don't know if you feel the same, but it warms my heart to hear a non-chiropractor talk about BJ. You know, it's like, you know, it's like you know that the person gets chiropractic when they're quoting or talking about BJ Palmer, you know, and his writing. So it's really cool. And Dr. Shiner, Dr. David Shiner, I'm not sure if we cut you off or if you had another question. If you do, just let Shane know, and Shane will let me know the same as we move on. Well, I've got a question for you, and then Shane, if there's more questions, just let us know. But the question, you guys did the move from the old campus on Via Barrett to the new campus, right? And
yes,
what was it like?
Well, I, for one, was very sad.
Because you like the
My heart was in the old campus, yeah.
You like the water fountains that you had to go on your knees to be able to get the water?
Well, that and a few other things. And we'd also expanded. We had a clinic in Oakland.
Yeah.
For a short time, we had a clinic in Walnut Creek. We had a second campus not far from where you are now, Bayview it was called. And we parceled students out all over the place because we grew much faster than the building would hold. But the other thing that was really nice, it kept the classes small. We didn't have rooms that were big enough, except in the trailers that we put out in the back.
Yeah.
Those temporary buildings, and those were the big classrooms.
So was the feeling for both of you, like Adrienne, when you guys came to Industrial Boulevard, was it kind of like, wow? I mean, that sense of, you know, being in a cozy, you know, 2-bedroom, you know, or 3-bedroom apartment into a, you know, 26,000 square foot home kind of deal where you didn't see everybody every second. Was that kind of the feeling that was there?
Yeah, well, I needed directions because, you know, there were all the long hallways and everything, and they were marked off. I knew what picture I was supposed to walk toward to get to the library, and what picture to get to the health center. And then the side hallways that went off to all the labs and everything. So I had to really learn my way around there, and it was interesting, but it was nice to have a little bit of room, you know, and not to do the transfer, you know, of having to go from one place to the other. I worked on the schedules and trying to plan schedules for students where they had to be at Bayview, and then they had to be back on the main campus, and then they had to be at the health center, and you had to allow for travel time, and there was a lot of you know, wasted time, and there was a lot of burdens on people. So it was much more convenient to all be in one place, and then you could go see a patient upstairs at the health center and then come down and go to the library. I mean, so that part was really good, and a better use of time and resources for everybody.
And I have to admit that my first 6 months here, Adrienne, I had no idea where I could find my way to Sid Square. And then from there, it was Dan Pagrelis's hands that got me back to my office. Seriously, that's what got me there. I mean, I would get into the square and everything just looked the same. You know, I felt like I was in Rome or somewhere at a little plaza. And which direction do I go? We have some more questions, so let's bring those questions in. So Shane, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Lori O'Hara, I see that your hand is raised, so get ready to unmute. But before we take that question, Wanda Butterly has a clarification on Project Razzle Dazzle. It was a campaign and a rather large project when we painted the hall lockers, classrooms, and gave the Via Barnett a facelift. I don't remember the exact year, but I was with Life West from 1985 until 2017.
It was before my time.
I remember painting. I remember doing a lot of painting, and I hated it, but I painted and I painted. Because all the halls in Via Barrett had murals that the junior high school kids painted, so we had to paint them all over.
Well, there must have been time, Michael, because you were there during that time period.
Definitely, yeah.
So that's crazy. So they painted everything. I love it.
We had to paint everything, yeah.
I love it.
The other thing too is I thought that was very impressive, because Life West was the kind of place, you know, it was to love, to give, to serve out of abundance, and everybody pitched in. And I was very impressed by that coming from outside, you know.
I love it. Shane?
Okay, Lori O'Hara, I'm going to unmute you.
I don't have any questions, but I was a happy transfer student back in the early 80s. So I can tell you that I went to 3 chiropractic colleges, started at Pasadena College of Chiropractic. That's the one that closed down. And then went to LACC and then traveled to Life. I lost a lot of time traveling to Life because I had to make up a lot of philosophy and a lot of technique classes, which was like, to me, I felt like I died and went to heaven. So loved the program there, loved all those technique classes, and of course I'm still a Gonstead chiropractor, so that was the big influence on me of transferring to Life West. And thank you, Pete O'Hara, to start that program that he did, and all those teachers. I mean, Dan Pagrelis, I mean, some of the best teachers. It was just amazing program. My daughter's there now, so again, I get to hear all the changes that are happening. It's like a whole different school and a different campus and different curriculum, and COVID, what a change. Yeah. So I'm kind of happy when I was, but it's very exciting.
Lori, if you weren't on last night, make sure that you watch the tape when it comes out, because Jerry Klum really just talked about Pete and what he did, and the $5,000 donation that he gave for audiovisual equipment, and then the Gonstead group that got together, that came and taught and then donated the money back to the college, their salary. So make sure you watch that. And thank you, Lori. Shane?
Yeah, this one comes from our student athletics coordinator, Nolan Haverson. Where can we find the Emerson paper?
Oh, I don't know. I can get a copy to the Life West Library, and if you contact them, they'll have it, or they'll have it.
Okay, this next one comes from Annette Walker. Please share your thoughts about advancing the profession, the call to action for more diversity and inclusion in every aspect.
Michael, you want to start with that one?
Well, I think we advanced. The major advance we did was we graduated people that by and large had successful practices. So the numbers multiplied that way. And in a big part, the graduates would recruit for us. So we grew that way. And we were involved. We had to be involved in all the organizations and all the politics. And, Jerry was perfect for that. I mean, he loved it. I hated it. So I stayed home and babysat the kids, and he went out and told the world about chiropractic and got us involved in all this stuff. And he still is.
Yeah. Adrienne, how about anything on diversity and inclusion?
Well, I mean, chiropractic had been a very male. Well, I got told that I knew a lot about chiropractic, even though I wasn't married to a chiropractor, which I thought was weird. But that's the way the profession was structured, and I think that encouraging the number of women that Life West encouraged helped with diversity. And as far as race, that is still a challenge, and that has some deep historical roots in chiropractic that are unfortunate. But I think we're overcoming those, and people are doing their best to overcome those things. But I was proud of the number of women at Life West,
Yep.
who weren't just married to chiropractors, but were there,
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Shane, is there anything? Should I go right now?
Before we do another question, I do want to throw out this comment from our own George Casey. Michael and Adrienne, please visit the museum. I miss you.
We'll be back.
And we
So
promise.
shout out for George Casey.
And George promises that you won't see yourselves in the museum, okay? Because you're not that old yet, right? So George makes that promise. And if you haven't seen it, we moved the museum into what we call now the Learning Commons, or when you were there, the library, right? So when you walk in and go around the front desk, there's a room, used to be a computer room in the back. That's now our museum, and it is incredible. I mean, George has done a phenomenal job. So when you come to the campus, make sure that you do see that.
I think Adrienne saw it too. We were there.
Yeah, but it was in a different room then. We haven't seen it in its
I can't remember where it was, but yeah, it was quite an accomplishment.
Yeah. It's incredible. The question I have for you is that Life West, you talked about it earlier. It's like built on service, and still is. Our ethos is lasting purpose, right? Giving, doing, loving, and serving out of our own abundance, expecting nothing in return. And during your time at the college, I know that the college was out there doing a ton of things on a service level, right, in the community, and can you share some of your experiences in the early, in the times that you were there, of what was taking place?
Sure.
One of the first things we did in the community was the Sleigh Bells Dash. We started a fun run, and it was in December, and it was a 5K, and it grew every year, and we got a lot of local publicity. So it brought people in. It helped get people in the clinic, and the big attraction for students and runners were, I'm a former marathoner, so I know in December we gave out long sleeve shirts. That in itself brought a lot of people just to get a good shirt. And then later on we did the age walk.
How many were participating?
Oh, there were at least 500 every year.
Great.
And it started at the campus, and we ran all over San Lorenzo and back. Later on, we did the AIDS walk. We went into different places and started different things. The clinic in Walnut Creek, the clinic in Oakland, the clinic never was on campus till now.
Mhm.
The first clinic was on B Street. We outgrew that too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the second clinic was on what was that, on A Street? Where was that?
A Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Klum reached out to a lot of people in the community. We were very connected with a shelter there. And since I'm old, the name of the shelter is slipping my mind, but we did a lot of stuff to help a homeless shelter in San Leandro or Hayward. And we did a lot of things. And I have to say, I went to a Hayward meeting just to find out some information. And I said I was here, I'd worked at Life West, and the former mayor was talking about how wonderful Life West was for its community involvement here. And that was the students. You know, the students got out there and did stuff in the community as well. We did food drives, we did all kinds of things.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. There's some more questions have come in. So Shane, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure, Dr. David Shiner is back with another question. To both panelists, please share your favorite Dr. Sid story.
I have many. I know Sid from before I even went to school. My favorite, it's hard. I know. I don't know what my favorite. I mean, he was a character, and of course, probably me more than anybody knows a lot about him because I succeeded him in a very tumultuous time. And probably the favorite thing during that time when the transition went from retiring Dr. Sid and putting me in as an interim, unbeknownst to pretty much everybody, I used to meet them, Dr. Sid and Dr. Nell, at a restaurant in about 20 miles north of the college. And it was a barbecue place. And we would often meet, and his favorite restaurant was Olive Garden because he thought the soup was free. So there were lots of times, and you know, I stayed with him, and I don't know if anybody remembers Clay Thompson or Thompson Technique. I spent a week with them in the BJ house in Sarasota, Florida, and Clay was pretty old at that time, and we went down to the beach, and there was water, like a stream running into the ocean, and I had to carry Clay like he was my wife over the threshold across the water. They're just, you know, the stories go on forever. I have a million memories, and am so grateful for his contribution, which, you know, was the leader for a good quarter of a century, or more than quarter of a century, actually.
Yeah, beautiful. Adrienne, do you have any Dr. Sid stories?
Nothing significant. You know, I did not know him that well. And so, I mean, I saw him speak a lot of times, and, you know, I'm always interested in people's speaking style. And I saw him, and he'd come out here. And the weird thing was, I had a dream about him last night preparing for this. So
Wow.
I guess he was coming to say, come on, let's go get this together. So his spirit turns up at the oddest times and places.
Well, I tell you what, Adrienne, you were with us last night. Michael, that same question was asked last night, and the panel was myself, Jerry, and Dee Dee Umber, and we were all like just silent for a second, just like you were, as we were thinking of the multitudes of stories that we all had about Dr. Sid, or, you know, being with him for so many years, and the things that he did. He was just an amazing man, very eccentric, very courageous, and boy, was he principled and dedicated, and, you know, nothing got in his way, nothing. Shane, next question.
This one is for Dr. Michael Schmidt. What was it like working for your brother-in-law, Dr. Gary Klum?
We got along well because, as I mentioned before, we had different likes and dislikes. You know, I was very happy to be under him. I don't care for public speaking. I do it, and I've always done it, but it's not my favorite thing to do. But I didn't have a lot of trouble with him. I had more trouble with my sister, because if she didn't like something, she would go to him, and then he would come to me and tell me what was wrong. And that used to drive me crazy. I said, you either leave her out of it or you leave me out of it, but you don't get both. So that was probably the main thing, because she has, if you know my sister, she has an opinion about everything. And she worked for a number of years in the clinic.
Yeah.
But Jerry and I got along very well. I'm very grateful, to have spent my career alongside of him.
Okay, this next question is directed towards Adrienne. How did you find the chiropractic philosophy after you settled into the college?
How did I find it? If the question is how did I discover it, it was just from watching everyone. I went to to Friday's seminar. I listened to Dr. Klum, and how did I find it? It was so that's how I discovered it. And then I started reading, because again, with a background in education, if you want to learn something, you start reading, and you start reading the books and talking to people and figuring it out. So that was fun. And then watching other people do it. But it's a very intuitive philosophy. It's not, it doesn't value overthinking a lot. So it was a different approach, and I watched that and I saw how that worked, and I became very enriched by seeing that different approach. Mm-hmm.
Nice, Shane.
Okay, next one is for Dr. Schmidt. What was the funniest thing that happened to you at Life West?
Probably the funniest things. I really can't say much. Some of them I hear at one of the graduations. This a woman graduate introduced me to her parents. We're all standing there in our caps and gowns, and it's a real celebration. And she turned to her mother and said, "This is the guy who made me pregnant." She was in my toggle class. I taught toggle then, and up to that point, she had not been able to conceive. And when she took toggle and I toggled her, before the class, not before that day, but before the quarter was over, she was pregnant and had a child before she graduated. And she still writes to me, and she just had something on Facebook, and she had a family picture with all her kids and everything. And I said to her, "Which one's named after me?" And she said, "Third from the left."
Wow. Great. That's
You
good.
know, one of the funny things I remember is on the old campus, we used to have some kind of fair in the square, in the middle there in the patio. And, you could buy chiropractic books and equipment and food and stuff. And we had a dunk tank. And Dr. Schmidt would be up there, and you would buy some balls or something. I don't know what it was exactly. I just thought it was the funniest, bravest thing that, he'd be up there and the students would be dunking him, and they dunked Blvd, who was in charge of collecting all the tuition money. And, they had, it was funny. It was, again, that kind of no one standing on formality there. You could dunk the dean,
Well, Adrienne, I will tell you this Friday, we have our birthday celebration. It'll be out in our parking lot, and they have a dunk tank, and yours truly will be the last person in the dunk tank.
There you go. The spirit lives on.
So have a laugh, and I just have to bring my hair blower, make sure I can dry my hair afterwards, so I can continue to do what I need to do. Shane, anything else?
Yeah, we have another one from Dr. Joseph Ivey. Thank you so much for your dedication and support over the decades. If you could offer the college one birthday wish, what would it be?
Nice.
I
Adrienne.
would say it's always been this, that it continues and it grows.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really what we were doing, is because we started with probably not even a couple hundred students
Yeah.
and just kept it going. So that would be my wish, because there's always been, it's always been a challenge. Chiropractic has a challenge in the whole medical field, and we basically have to carry our own banner and to keep it going. So I think that would be my wish, that you're here in another 1,000 years.
Yeah. And I would say, and I wish that we can preserve that spirit of service and lasting purpose that has gotten us this far and will continue to carry us forward with the same kind of generous heart, you know. That's it. We won't lose that.
Those are both beautiful, beautiful birthday wishes. And I will tell you both that that is what we will be doing. So Michael, we're going to continue to grow the college, and Adrienne, it's one thing to grow it, but it's another thing to have purpose behind what we do. And our ethos is lasting purpose, and we will keep giving, doing, loving, and serving out of our abundance and spreading that all over the globe. I mean, that's what I promise you that. We hit our time period. We have 45 minutes, and that's what we're geared toward. But before we end, if you have any final questions, shoot them over to Shane. I just want to ask each of you, one last thing. If there's final questions, then we'll go with those and we'll wrap up. But the last question I want to ask each of you, and I think Ivey, Dr. Joe asked a really beautiful question. What's the birthday wish? What I'd like to ask is that if, in 50 years, and when you're on a cloud up above us and you're looking down on Life West and you're seeing what's going on there, tell me what it is that would warm your heart, that you would be able to look back on and say, that's what we did then when you were with us.
Well, I would like to see a diverse student body, a diverse faculty that can reach out into so many different communities and continue that spirit of healing, both spiritually and physically, is what I'd like to see, is that development. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you, Adrienne. Michael?
And I would like, I always stressed as a student, I mean, as a faculty or as a teacher, that we exist because of what we do that's different. What we do that is duplicated, we don't do as well. Whoever does it better. But what we do is unique, and that has to be preserved. What we do that's different, because we offer something that is not duplicated anywhere else. And that's the most important thing to me.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I want to remind our listeners that, and our viewers that, Michael, you went through the earthquake, San Francisco earthquake. I think it was in 1989 that you went through while you were at the college, and then the Oakland fire, the fires that were going on. Adrienne and both of you were there, during 9/11. So there were a lot of historic moments where a lot of us participated in those. But, there were a lot of historic moments that happened, while you guys were at the college. And it's just kind of cool to be able to know that, through everything, we persevere and we keep going. And I want to thank you for persevering and for, being part of the major, I want to say that bulge time at the college, right? From when we moved from the old campus to the new campus, 800 students, almost 900 students, where it just really exploded. And you guys were part of that. You were there during it. And it takes a lot of effort and a lot of energy to make that happen. A lot, as the students are going through, they just see more people coming on campus. Class is a little more crowded, but on the back end of it, as now I am on the back end, it's kind of like the production gets bigger and bigger, and it goes from a off-Broadway play to a Broadway play, and then it goes to the movie theater, and it just kind of gets bigger as it goes. So thank you for all that you've done for the college. For our listeners and our viewers, thank you for being with us and, you know, listening to Adrienne and Michael be able to share their stories that probably resonate with you. I want to let you know that tomorrow night we have two teachers that both Adrienne Miller and Michael Schmidt, Dr. Michael Schmidt, worked with. We've got Dan Murphy with us tomorrow night, and we have Sue Ray with us tomorrow night. And so come back and join us during that time period. And Michael and Adrienne, thank you for being with us tonight. We really, really, I just appreciate you.
It was great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all. Mhm.
You got it. Thank you. Thank you, Shane, for leading us tonight, and for everyone else. Have a great night. Join us tomorrow night, 6:30 Pacific time, with those two faculty, Dan Murphy and Sue Ray. Until then, have a great night's sleep, and remember to keep hugging those people around you and giving, doing, loving, and serving out of your abundance.
Yes.
Thank you.
See you later.
The wave has been so inspiring to me. I'm just so jazzed to come here every year. Always going home just energized and so excited about chiropractic, and I just want to get my hands on people already.
They did good last year, but they surpassed themselves this year. You have got to come.
I love the wave. It's been a great seminar, meeting up with old friends and catching up and learning a lot and being re-inspired.